Ambassador John Bolton is with us, former national security advisor under President Trump, ambassador to the United Nations. Good to see you, sir. You and I both woke up early to this news. I'm wondering if this doesn't sum things up. The world is a more righteous place, especially with Evan and Paul back in America, but it is also a more dangerous place because of the price we paid.
Well, everybody should certainly welcome the fact that the Americans and others were released from their extremely unjust Russian incarceration. But what's happened here, to be clear, is a hostage swap that violates all the principles that Ronald Reagan laid down about how not to deal with terrorists and terrorist regimes like the one in Moscow. This is not a spy for spy swap. This is not a POW for POW swap. This is criminals for innocent Americans swap. And if you look at the overall shape of the exchange, it's like Putin is cleaning a house in his Russian prisons. They've got 7 Russian dissidents, in effect, exiled. You say, well, it's better for them to be out of prison than in a Russian prison. Of course, their families and friends are still hostage back in Russia. And so what's happened here is that the administration has sent a signal, as they have before with Brittany Griner, as they did with hostages in Iran, for the right price, we'll buy an American back from you. And every time that happens, it reinforces in the minds of regimes like Russia, in the minds of terrorist groups, that this administration, at least, is in the bazaar. And the only question is, what's the price? That endangers other Americans. Everybody who carries one of those blue passports becomes a piece of currency for some terrorist or some authoritarian regime to grab. It makes all Americans more dangerous, more at risk.
To your point, President Biden was even asked about that a little bit during his press conference, and he made the point, we're telling people not to go places, ... He didn't say this, but to your point, so they don't get grabbed and turned in to a hostage. The administration's taken a victory lap on this, and again, I think all the time about people coming home, what it would have been like if when I was overseas, I'd gotten grabbed, and what it would be like for me to come home, for my family, and how much that would have meant. So there's an emotional part of this that you really, I think, have to think about. But then there's the larger sense, which is what we're talking with you about, is that the administration seems to want so much credit for this, and at least 2 of these people were people who Putin grabbed under Joe Biden's watch.
Yeah, and let's be clear, at least by the count I've seen publicly available, there's still 8 Americans being held by the Russians. He's still got the coin of the realm for what else he wants. Why was it important for Putin to get back this KGB agent convicted of murder in Germany and a lot of these other agents about which not much is known, but you can see that they were clearly operatives? They want to find out what these people have divulged, what Russian tradecraft, what Russian assets have been compromised. They want to know what was not divulged that may still be safe. They want to know what Western questioners were asking them. There's real tangible intelligence value to the Russians to get their people back. The value to us is that people being unjustly held get released. And you're right, there's no doubt. Everybody, purely from a humanitarian point of view, welcomes this. And it's I have to admit, the logic of national security is cold. It sounds cold until the next hostages are grabbed. Then you see the logic. What did the Biden administration do during this period of time? How many Russian journalists, quote unquote, did they expel from this country? What kinds of sanctions did they impose? And did they enforce the sanctions, or did they just announce them? Look, this is not the way for the United States to behave. The value of an American hostage to anybody in the world should be 0. We don't trade for them. Don't take them.
It is a cold logic, but then when you explain it, it makes more sense. We saw some of the video of those coming off the plane, off the Russian airliner. At least a couple of them were Russian illegals, sort of deep cover operatives that were caught in Slovakia, among other places. Something that sort of got slipped in, and the White House has known this has been coming for a long time, so it's no surprise that last night they released something that perhaps everybody would overlook because of this news and made with Donald Trump's comments. New York Post front page, 9/11 mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed just took a plea deal down at Gitmo. And evidently Gitmo is going to be closed, the Guantanamo Bay prison facility, in 6 months, is some of the reporting. Atrocity of justice, 9/11 mastermind, spared death penalty in shocking plea deal. He deserves hell. I heard today at the White House briefing, the White House said they knew nothing about that this was going to happen and read about it in a press release. Does any of that ring true to you?
Well, the fact that the White House isn't running the government definitely rings true. The president hasn't been running much for a long time. But the key point here is this is outrageous. And frankly, it shows the misguided model that was applied to all these people, the idea that somehow these terrorists, these outlaws, these barbarians are entitled to American due process. It may sound hard, but when you get somebody like KSM, the sheik who put all this together, after you find out everything you can in terms of potential intelligence for the United States, what he deserves is, as Winston Churchill suggested in World War II, a drumhead court-martial for the Nazis, and then you hang him, period.
All right. I would say that is a direct response, Ambassador. It is good to see you, sir. Thank you. I know it's been a long day for you. We appreciate you being with us tonight.
Glad to be with you.